there's a certain idea that people would put on sackcloth as a sign of mourning to, ask for forgiveness, to ask for rain, for ask for whatever calamities to be averted. But not just anybody. There's this whole idea that a king should also be somebody who holds himself up to be, an example for people. He shouldn't necessarily lower himself. We look at people as lowering themselves, humbling themselves by putting on sackcloth, by putting ashes on their heads, by doing other things that people do. And we say, the king is somebody you want to be holding in esteem. You don't want the king lowering himself. You want the king raising himself in a lot of ways. And so how do we balance this out when you actually do need to be trying to be humble and trying to be seeking forgiveness, but at the same time, wanted to hold yourself up as a person of esteem in the eyes of the community? And the Gemara on Daf 14 deals with this and says that a person of who's highly esteemed, highly important, shouldn't be lowering themselves by putting on sackcloth unless they're certain they're going to be answered. And it gives a funny example. It gives an example of Yehoram ben Achav, the son of Achav, who became king. There's actually two kings after his father. His older brother ruled first. And he himself put on sackcloth at a time of real difficulty, but then put his kingly garments over the sackcloth. So he himself was lowering himself privately while holding himself up publicly. And only when something happened that was so devastating, it made him rend his clothes, rip his clothes off, did people see that he was wearing sackcloth underneath. And the Gemara goes on to say that only if you're someone who's certain they're going to be answered, and it says, like Yehoram ben Achav, should a person of esteem wear sackcloth? So it's kind of a funny thing, because I didn't really see him as somebody who was certain he was going to be answered. Here he was coming from this idolatrous house. He wasn't this king who was like, oh yeah, he could be absolutely confident. But that's kind of what the Gemara points out. It's only in a time of certainty that you're going to be answered should a person, I guess, lower themselves to be putting on sackcloth. But what you see from Yehoram, sometimes you can do things privately and keep your own suffering private, but have a different face publicly when necessary.